She sent one text, just one. Dad, I'm checking into a mental health facility. Don't worry about me. And then Molly Richards was gone. No calls, no check-ins, no trace. Just silence and a boyfriend with a story that was a little too clean, a little too rehearsed, and a little too convenient. If you've ever felt the cold chill of a story that just doesn't add up, you're in the right place. Subscribe to Crime Flux now, because we don't just tell stories here. We follow them all the way to the truth. Hit that like button, drop a comment, and let's get into one of the most haunting disappearances you will ever hear. There are people in the world who simply don't vanish. Molly Richards was one of them. 28 years old, bright, grounded, the kind of daughter fathers brag about, not because she was perfect, but because she was present. She texted back. She checked in. She called her dad, Steve Richards, the way people used to call their parents before the world got too busy and too distracted. Stephen knew his daughter's rhythms, the way you know the rhyme of your own heartbeat. And when that rhythm stopped, suddenly without warning, every instinct in him screamed that something was deeply wrong. It started with unanswered calls, 1, then 5, then too many to count. Then came the text, red receipts that never came, blue ticks that never appeared, just a phone ringing into the void. Stephen reached out to Molly's boyfriend, Christopher Sanders. Nothing. No reply, no explanation, just more silence piling on top of silence. And that's when Steve Richards walked into a police station and filed a missing person report, because a father knows, and Stephen knew. When investigators in Little Elm, Texas, sat down with Christopher Sanders, he came prepared. He had a story. Molly, he said, had met someone else, another man in South Dakota. She wanted to stay there. She was getting help, getting better. It all sounded reasonable on the surface. The kind of explanation that could make a grieving father second-guess himself. The kind of story designed to create just enough doubt. But detectives, the good ones, aren't listening only for what's said. They listened for what's rehearsed. And Christopher's words had a texture to them. Smooth, polished, like a stone that had been turned over too many times. Something was wrong, and investigators were going to prove it. Records showed that Molly and Christopher had travelled together to South Dakota in November. A witness came forward, someone who had spoken to Christopher during that trip. Christopher had asked this person to watch Molly's car while he took her to see a doctor. That detail alone should have been routine. Except Christopher never came back with Molly. He flew back to Texas alone, and then a week later he returned to South Dakota, again still alone. No Molly, no explanation, no trace of where she had gone, or who this mysterious man she supposedly met was. Just Christopher, moving through the world as if nothing had changed, as if a woman he had travelled with had simply evaporated. Police located Molly's car. At first glance, it looked ordinary enough. Nothing obviously disturbed, nothing visibly wrong. But then one of the investigators leaned closer. There was a smell. Not the smell of a car that had been sitting unused. Not oil or old food or the ghost of someone's morning coffee. This was a sharp, aggressive smell of cleaning chemicals. The kind of smell that doesn't come up from tidying. The kind that comes from removing something, from scrubbing a surface until whatever was there before simply ceased to exist. Investigators knew what that smell meant. Someone hadn't cleaned that car. Someone had erased it. Weeks had passed since Molly's disappearance. Her phone had been dark the entire time. No signal, no pings, no location data. As if it had been turned off the moment she sent that final text. And then one day, it came back on. A ping registered, right near Christopher Sanders' home. That single data point changed everything. Because if Molly had truly left on her own free will, if she was safe in South Dakota with some man she'd met, checking into a facility getting help, her phone should not have been used anywhere near her ex-boyfriend's house. But it was, and investigators now understood with cold clarity, this was no longer a missing persons case. This was something far darker. A woman had been watching Christopher's dogs while he was away. Unremarkable at first, a favour, a routine, responsibility, until she walked through the house. Inside, she found Molly's belongings. Not a jacket left behind, not a forgotten charger on the nightstand. Everything. Her driving licence, her bank cards, her laptop, stacks of unopened mail, the complete intimate inventory of a woman's daily life. The things a person do not leave behind when they choose to start over somewhere new. The things a person do not leave behind ever, unless leaving was never a choice they made. Molly's entire life was sitting in that house, and Molly was nowhere. With mounting suspicion and probable cause, investigators obtained a warrant, then another, then another. They searched Christopher Sanders' property with unrelenting precision, and they found bedding, stained with blood residue, not visible to the naked eye, but detectable. The kind of evidence that forensic testing pulls from the shadow of what someone thought they erased. Then came a receipt from a hardware store. The itemized list read like a confession written in consumer products. A bowl saw, a saw, 10 5-gallon buckets, gloves, a taper. This is no innocent explanation for that combination. Investigators knew it, prosecutors would know it, and anyone who has ever watched a true crime documentary knows exactly what those tools purchased together are meant to do. They are tools for making a person disappear. Investigators reconstructed Christopher's movements across multiple states with painstaking detail. On November 27th, he had driven from Texas towards South Dakota. But he had made a stop, a small town in Oklahoma. He had property there. He stopped for just over an hour, 60 minutes, maybe a few more. That is all it takes. Investigators believe, and the evidence strongly suggests, that somewhere in that hour, in that Oklahoma town, Molly Richards' story came to a devastating and violent end. Then, on March 7th, Christopher Sanders was pulled over and arrested. He was driving back from South Dakota, moving through the world the way guilty people sometimes do, with a practiced normalcy, as if routine itself is a kind of alibi, as if going about your life is proof that nothing happened. He was taken into custody in Oklahoma, charged with murder, no bail. Here is the part that doesn't resolve. Here is the part that keeps Molly's father awake at night, that lives in the chest of everyone who followed this case and hoped for something better. Molly Richards has never been found. No grave, no resting place, no final goodbyes. Just a father who still doesn't know where his daughter is. Just a missing persons report that technically remains open. Just a name without a body and a family without closure. And that last text message, "Dad, I'm checking into a mental health